All right, I'm here with Spike. Spike just freaked out because the doorbell rang. In this video, I'm going to show you how you use counter-conditioning to stop a dog from reacting. Now, the doorbell was too much for him, and we had a little bit of a friendly fire situation going on. So when you're doing this, I would do this with, I'm going to show you how to do it with the doorbell or with it knocking, but we would eventually do it with the doorbell. Now, my three things when I'm doing this exercise, the dog has to be calm throughout. Sit. So if the dog freaks out, then you've pushed it past its limits. So the way that I lower the intensity is by either turning down the volume, slowing down the speed, or increasing the distance. So we've kind of increased the distance a little bit. We've got one of the guardians by the door. Now you can see he's very interested in the treats that I have. Now normally when we bark at the door, I probably could interslice this if I had time to edit this with showing him freaking out, but he freaked out. It took him a couple minutes to calm himself down. Now I have him on a leash. You don't necessarily have to have a leash for this, but if a dog is moving around, the more they move around, we call it aroused. It's not sexually aroused, it's just the more worked up he gets. So the leash kind of helps prevent him from getting too worked up. Now I have a chicken liver treat here. It's a soft meat treat, and it's a pellet, but I can squish it and make it like a pancake. And what I can do is when I do this counter conditioning, I can actually change where he's looking by if I go up or down or to the side. Now, sometimes I'm doing this with visual things. I might actually have a construction person out there. Now, what I would do for counter conditioning, what I would do is I would arrange to have one of the guys there. I'm going to show you two different versions of this actually. So the first thing I would do is have one of your construction guys out there. And then basically, I'm going to squish one of these treats and I'm going to have him looking at them as they pass by. So if we're far enough away and we've exercised him ahead of time, he should be able to watch them pass by and he's getting the treat the whole time. And since you're so far away, instead of barking at them, he just sits there and chews the treat. After enough repetition, every time I see the person, I'm getting this treat. I kind of like this person now, where before I was alerting to them. So this is the first stage, is you're delivering the reinforcer, in this case the treat, before the stimulus happens. The stimulus is the person walking by. So after I do this maybe 10, 15 times, the dog's just like really relaxed and looking at him and nice and relaxed. Then what I would do is I would have him sit and I'd be holding it so he's looking in that direction but not letting him chew it. And then I'd have the person appear and give him 1 second. Then I would pop the treat in his mouth while he's looking. And he's chewing, he's ready to bark, and the person's outside the view. So at first it's 1 step, then 2 steps. This is the second stage. 1 step, 2 steps, 3 steps before I give the treat. Eventually the guy goes all the way across the whole thing, and then he gets the treat after. What it achieves is when I see a person walking by the house, not only is it not somebody to bark at, it's an indicator that I'm about to get a treat. Now first we let him appear for 1 second and we give him the treat because we don't want to practice the barking. And then eventually 2, 3, and this might be several practice sessions and before you get to the point where eventually the dog, I can see them and not bark. And then we gradually elongate 1 step, 2 steps, 3 steps, eventually go all the way across. So that's the sight, the visual occurrence. Now the second one I'm going to go over right now is the sound. Now for the sound, we prefer not having to look. So when I nod, the guardian is going to knock on the door 1 time with a good medium-sized knock. Up, sit. Okay, a little miscommunication. So what I wanted was 1 single knock, and if you watch the video, you'll see the 1 knock he didn't bark, but it was multiple knocks. Now this one, I have to let him settle down. But in this expediency of this video, I want to try to slow this sooner. Now, if he's worked up, if I pat him, I'm going to make it worse. I can put my hand here and hold. I'm just trying to take away one of his senses. Go ahead and walk away from the door. So right now, because he was actually go in that little room right there. So now that he saw him at the door, so he was like, what's going to happen? Is somebody about to come in? So now I'm more on guard. So we took the person away from the door. Spike, sit. Spike, sit. Spike. You have to sit for this one. There we go. Yeah. So once he's reacting, it's what we call above threshold. He's basically a sit. He's not going to listen to anything. Spike, you want another one? Sit. Spike. So I'm not, right now I'm just trying to reposition him so he's looking away from the door. And his energy is still high, he's still breathing, but he's sitting and he's laying down. Those are indications he's feeling comfortable. All right, now I'm going to have our knocker very quietly go back to the door, and this time I only want a single low volume knock. So when I nod my head. There you go, buddy. Got another one right here for you too. So you saw him stop and he turned to look, but that was all he got is one knock. So I'm letting him chew the rest of this. So when we're doing this, we want the reinforcer delivered first, then the stimulus happens while the reinforcer is being delivered. So I think this is a residual. Because we're filming this, I want to go through this right away. But normally, once he reacts like this, you stop, you pull the plug, wait for him to return to a completely, go ahead and walk away. Wait for him to return to a completely calm and balanced state of mind. And since standing by the door seems to be an indicator for him, I want the person to move away. And so we can kind of just let him do his thing. And once he's relaxed, again, we get one knock while the reinforcer is being delivered. Now, he has nipped a couple people when he's been overly worked up, and just like, and this is why we want him to be sub-threshold throughout the whole time. So the idea is, see, we hear a knock, and the knock only happens when I'm having this delicious treat delivered. Now I'm gonna move a little bit over here so we can't see it. I'm gonna have the camera move a little bit, and so I'm gonna just kind of prevent him from being able to see the door and increase the distance. All right, so now we're gonna do this again. All right, our knocker can go ahead and go back to the door. Sit. And when I give you the thumbs up, go ahead and give me a single knock. Now we've taken away one of his senses. He can't see. Well, he couldn't if I wouldn't have let that slide away. But you saw because of that, he started getting a little bit excited, but he wasn't barking like he was now until he saw it first. All right. So when you're doing this, what we want to do is we want to create a situation where it's, again, a positive association. There we go. So what I would do is do this, again, after exercising him so that he is, and I want to distract you with some crumbs now here. Let you have some crack. There we go. So what we want to do is we want to exercise him before this so he doesn't have quite as much fight and as much energy in his system. And because the visual and the sound is too much, I would maybe practice right here in your kitchen. Maybe just do it with a Bluetooth. Now, if you always say now, 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 the dog starts to recognize now means it's about to happen. So sometimes I say, every time you say a number, I want you to knock once. Every time I say a color, a country, an actor name, or whatever it is. And we get to the point so he doesn't know what the tip-off is. But eventually, this associates the knock at the door means I'm going to get the treat. Now, just like I talked about at the beginning of the video, at first, we're delivering the reinforcer, then the knock happens. And we do that until we get to the point where we're delivering the reinforcer, we're doing boom, 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 like we did in the first one that we accidentally didn't want to do. Then we would get a little bit closer, a little bit closer, a little bit closer. Now, we can get all the way to the door, and basically, he's chewing it, he's not barking at all. Then I would move back over here, and this time what I would do is I would have a treat like this, and we'll try it now. I don't think this is going to work, but this is what we would normally do. Sit. All right, give me a single knock, please. I'm surprised that worked. Usually you need a lot more repetition. So what this means is just like I talked about, the visual means I'm about to get a treat. Now the knock means I'm going to get a treat. So I was holding the treat here so he saw it, and we'll go ahead and try to do that again. Here, buddy. I need more than that. That's not enough. Here's a big one. Sit. All right, give me 2 knocks, please. No barking. Now, so again, the first stage of this is the reinforcer is delivered, then the stimulus happens while the reinforcer is being delivered. Then eventually we work our way closer to the door, or have the person take 1 step, 2 step, 3 step, like I talked about earlier, and then he starts getting the treat after the stimulus happens. Then every time somebody rings the doorbell, or knocks, or walks by, he thinks that means I'm about to get a treat. Now for the doorbell, that was clearly too much for him. So again, I lower the intensity. So we have it downstairs. So I might actually have somebody ring the doorbell. Well, we have him as far away from the doorbell sound as possible, the easiest version possible. And again, we're ringing that, and then once we can ring it and he's not responding at all, you see his ears move, but he doesn't respond, then we take one step closer to where the sound's coming from and practice there. And if you get to the point where he won't sit or won't take the treat, or he starts reacting, we push too far. The idea is not to even let him react. So my two tests, if he won't sit or won't take the treat, we're probably close to his breaking point. So stop, take note of how far away you were, put a little piece of tape on the floor, and the next day you come back and you start one step closer to that, and eventually get all the way up to right next to the doorbell sound or next to the door, and he's not barking at all. Well, Spike, sit, sit. This is a Spike, this is a David. This is a video on how you can use counter conditioning to stop your dog from barking at doorbells, knocks at the door, or people walking by your door. Right, Spike? Sit.